get straight into it, because we've got a lot to accomplish tonight. Good stuff. Alright, so welcome one and all to what might be our final mainstream of Yooka-Laylee here on the Overanalyst channel. Whether you're watching this live on twitch.tv or via video on demand after the fact on YouTube, I want to welcome you to this stream and hope you're doing well as we continue to wait out this exhausting little lockdown. Here's hoping we're, you know, heading out of the woods as opposed to deeper in, yeah? Alright, at any rate, when we left off last night, we were a ways into what is easily my favorite world in the entire game. Oh. Didn't mean to do that. Hold on. Guys, give me one quick second to make sure the audio is working properly. It is. Okay, good. We were exploring this lovely little world, the Galleon Galaxy. It's got this phenomenal hybrid nautical 50s sci-fi theme to it. I adore its color palette, its visual design, and honestly, it's just designed from a raw gameplay perspective is absolutely brilliant. Easily my favorite stage of the game, no contest really, and we've got quite a bit left to explore. At this point, since we've got like all those traversal options available to us through character upgrades, we can really enjoy exploring this area. As you can see with flight, you can get just about anywhere. But as I was saying, I love the way this level in particular is designed, because it has something of a central hub built around the hyper lighthouse over here that is or from which various spokes in the form of planets and constructs and other islands radiate. So, instead of having one great big open space just crammed full of stuff, large and small and little challenges scattered like bric-a-brac throughout, that doesn't really happen here. As I said, instead, you've got these really purposefully designed smaller areas that branch out from a central hub that's equally dense, still packed with stuff, one and all, but smaller areas overall, spread out through these kind of narrow bridges and causeways across a very large open area that still gives us a sense of scale. So it meets the aesthetic function that the devs were going for, without being quite so overwhelming from a gameplay perspective as, say, Capital Casino was. As I said, I just think it's extremely well designed, very pleasing to the eye, and honestly, a lot of fun to play. This was a real winner. Now, I think we popped these balloons before, right? Before we expanded the world. But if not, let's double check. We may actually want to transform again really quick anyway, and see what all we can do with our galleon form. There we go. We should probably talk to the Pagey as well, or the Pagey scrap, because he said he had a mission for us once we expand the world. So this is going to be an old-fashioned treasure hunt, I think. Oh, wait, no. His pieces are trapped in those cages held aloft by balloons. See, like the one right in the background. I've seen, I want to say, 2 of them, counting that one, in this stream. So what we're going to have to do, oh, there's a third, is fly around and use our sonar to pop the balloons. And, getting back to my rambling, like, gushing praise for this, stage's design, in addition to using this big open space mainly just to impress people, or impress the audience aesthetically, they do have a few challenges that take place throughout the entire wide open area, like this little treasure hunt, or the Peiji challenges involving the galleon, like that little race that took us on a full circuit of the ocean. But those challenges don't require you really to just scour every last inch of this open space for, you know, oodles of collectibles or cover every inch. Instead, you're able to just use this wide open space to construct challenges that have a lot to do with navigation or mobility, and give you an opportunity to really play around with this way more mobile character you have at this point. Does that make sense? Sorry if that's a bit vague. It's weird that I'm like 22 years old, been playing games my entire life, have 2 degrees, but I've never attempted to really assess game design or think about it super critically. Trying to develop a bit more of a critical eye for design as we go through things like this, if only because I think it'll give me a lot more to talk about. Now, I think there was one more we could see. Really interested to see what's in the large, kind of magenta-ish asteroid over there. Yeah, there we go. It's great they give you the galleon form, but for, like, standard locomotion, you don't even really need it. Here's Rextro's Island. Be interested to see what his final minigame's gonna be like. Maybe an old school, like, 2D top-down space shooter, like something like Space Invaders or Galaga. There we are. Okay, we should be good to take down the chest now. The flight controls aren't the most precise in the world, they're kind of floaty, but I don't recall ever being in a situation where, like, for a Peiji, not just to grab quills, we had to maneuver exceedingly sharply. And there we go, we should have a full Peiji now if we return to the original scrap. Even the soundtrack for this world is beautiful. I love it. This world has great music, as did the second. May not have a whole lot of praise for the Glacier's overworld, but its visuals and its music were both phenomenal. Okay, where was... little guy was over here. Then we'll go explore that little key with, the galleon. And then we'll explore some more of the new expanded environments. Nice. And I do appreciate that there are challenges that want to get you to see more of this area, both from the air and from the water. Man, if this was the gold standard for design, internally, since, like, the very beginning of the process, I have no doubt in my mind that Yooka-Laylee would be one of the, like, landmark platformers of this generation. I don't have enough positive things to say, really. But, tell you what, while we, ride around... Well, no, there's something... I might actually want to wait for one of our regular viewers who's, like, getting into game design themselves before I get into that, but later on I do want to discuss boss design and what we've seen of it from this game, because, along with, aesthetics, or art direction, I suppose, environment and sound design, those kinds of things, boss battles are far and away my favorite part of just about any game I play. Like, even a really bad boss battle is typically one of the highlights of a game for me. And your average platformer bosses tend to be kind of, like your standard workhorses, if that makes sense. Perfectly solid, like, at the very worst, mediocre. Oh, look, that barrier lowered due to us expanding the world, so we can get in here now. But occasionally not, like, terribly engaging in their own right. Like, just okay, you know what I mean? But this game in particular has done some interesting things with its bosses. Some good, some bad. Kind of like the game as a whole. Alright, I think we've done just about all the Galleon can do right here for now. Other than get those quills. Hold on. Oh, and melt this. Very efficient flamethrower. The instant the flames touch this massive lump of ice, it immediately melts away to nothing. Love that. Quite a few of these little frozen meteorites back here. Alright. Now let's see what, if anything, is in the center. Here. Oh. Nothing, it would appear. Just another way to access the snowball switch, huh? Okay. Alright then. We can fly on back to the central landmass then, or the docks. And I know there was a character that looked like your standard, like Buck Rogers style, retro sci-fi space princess, who asked us to track her down and speak with her as soon as we expanded the world, but I've no idea where she is, or in fact, who she is. It was a character we've never met before. Now, if we explored everything here on the docks... No, and apparently we don't want to head over here. This takes us to the giant robot, which in turn takes us to the ringed planetoid over there. Why don't we visit... Well, first we make sure there's nothing else here, of course. But then why don't we visit Rextro's island really quick and see if we can't get a couple pages from him. Also gonna need to come back through here with the Galleon, it looks like, because there's some meteorites still around over in this back half of the map. Not entirely sure if there's anything beneath or around them, but oh, check it out, it's one of the knights again. Let's see what he has for us. Okay, so there's a treasure, ostensibly either a pagey or a gem we can exchange for a pagey somewhere on the island. There's some ammo fruits over here, gotta keep that in mind. Oh, and I already see some weak rocks. Let's take a grenade fruit and clear the way here. Oh, it's the Thief Knight. He's got the key to the vault. Alright. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Can't see us now. Eh, they deserve it. These knights are terrible. Well, that would mean the other two are probably here as well. Yep, and here's Ham-a-Lot. Or no, Scoffs-a-Lot, I think. Scoff-a-Lot, that's it. They're the Knights of Ham-a-Lot. They are just the worst treasure hunters in the world, aren't they? You would think the thief would actually be pretty good at this, but no such luck. They're all offering us different rates, none of which I'm partial to. Perhaps the vault's in there. Just an idea. But first, let's explore the rest of this island. Oh, and it's Lady Hop-a-Lot, who generally has been one of the more decent knights. Along with the leader. Well, at least she's giving us an even share. There's Rextro's coin. So let's play some video games in a video game before we carry on trying to beat the knights to the treasure. This should be a pretty quick 2 pages. Oh, I'm kind of sad that this is going to be the last time we get to see each other, Rextro. Those plants around him look kind of like, the pseudo-Polynesian flower motifs that they used all the time on SpongeBob. Like in the skyboxes, you know what I mean? Rextro is so endearing. He's probably my favorite character in the game. This game is apparently called Up and Nova. I feel like all the puns are kind of starting to grow on me. Right now at the 11th hour. Alright, I'm curious to see what we got here, because the first 3 Rextro games, while fun, were insanely easy, whereas the 4th, was pretty solid, but also, like, really hard. Collect quills and dodge space junk in Radical Flying Game. Rextro's favorite, this one. Okay, so it's pretty simple. You move and you boost. Collect quills, I guess find boost tokens or something, and, just don't die. We've proven reasonably competent at staying alive in this game. Cue massive montage of me, like, throwing myself to my death due to fall damage or lasers or Kartos over and over and over again. Speaking of Kartos, today we are going to... Whoa. Okay. So you constantly have to, you press X to flap... Oh. Oh no, it's Flappy Bat. Oh dear. Seriously, it is like a bit more forgiving version of Flappy Bird. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, the music is incredible, though. Oh man, here's the sentry bees. Okay. Want to go for those gold quills, of course, anytime they appear. Hey man, I also, obviously, because so many things just fly out of your mind when you're stuck inside all the time, I forgot that, kind of a remake slash reboot of one of my favorite PS2 games, Destroy All Humans, is going to be released by THQ Nordic sometime soon, and I'm really looking forward to that, hoping I get to stream it for you guys. Luckily, this is just the practice run, so to speak, so we don't have to get a phenomenal score. Now, depending on how demanding the score requirement is, this could be a fairly difficult game or rather straightforward, but it's certainly not as tricky as the fourth, I can promise you that. Oof. My bad. And like all these games, they subtract from your score every time you take a hit, so that's something we want to watch out for. And the penalty to the score, much like the obstacle run in the casino, is pretty significant, actually. Yeah, see, like there. Over 2,000 points. Ah, almost got it. Alright. Hey to MC2M and You're Awesome and Amazing. How y'all doing this evening? Glad you're here, both of you. Alright, so that's our first pagey from Rextro. Curious to see what the high score is for this one. Yeah, we'll give it another go, of course. You're Awesome and Amazing says, I'm great, glad to be back. Thank you very much. What about you? I'm doing just fine. Thanks for asking. Got a lot of work done today, or as much as I can. Helping teach a course remotely. Obviously, you know, everything's online education right now. So, got as much done as I possibly could. And, oh, only 14,000. That's not bad at all. All the talk of chicken yesterday actually really evoked a craving in me. So I ordered some KFC today, which, I know it has a reputation for being kind of substandard fried chicken. Probably can't deny that. But there's just something so satisfying about good old chicken and gravy, especially, oh my god, the Nashville hot chicken. Obviously not as good as the stuff that you can actually get in Nashville, but still very, very good. Especially when your diet's been a bit bland by necessity for a while. There's a part of me that wants to think, like, the galaxy was either the very first world they designed, and therefore where all of their best ideas went, or, like, maybe it was actually produced last, sort of like in the order the stages are presented to us in the game. And at this point, they had really wrapped their head around what they wanted the game to be and how they wanted it to work, so this just kind of demonstrates their growth as a team over time. Oh dear. That one was on me. Now there is a boost move you can use, though I have no idea why you would want to. That didn't actually kill us. Oh, but that did. Lovely. Oof. So the bees are not an instant kill, but any type of surface is. That's very interesting. But I want to say we just barely made it. MC2M says grease is bad for the health, bland food is bad for the morale. Absolutely. And says, I got the feeling that the more original the stage was, the better it got. And when I did this minigame, I set myself the test to get all the quills. It is hard but feasible. Yeah, it looks like it. And you just gotta be very precise, especially on a protracted descent, like when you're going from the very top of the screen, free-falling down to the bottom to get, like, a line of quills. But, yeah, that one overall, not too bad. I kinda liked it. In fact, I wish there was a bit more to it, more obstacles and such, but a fun time, like all of Rextro's games. And with that, we're going to say farewell to probably the best recurring character in these literary worlds. Now we're going to continue on and see if we can't find the treasure that the Swine Knights have been alluding to, which is almost certainly not going to be in the giant, terribly conspicuous cavern right at the center of the island. We've already snatched the key from the thief, so oh no, we're back in the glacier. Oh no. Oh, it's Shovel Knight again. I honestly wasn't expecting to run into him again, but it's a pleasant surprise. Don't worry, Laylee. I promise you, anybody associated with Shovel Knight is not envious of your earnings. So we've already got one key. So he's actually offering us the worst deal out of everybody we've talked to so far. Oh, lovely. We've just gotta force one of the knights to puke up a key. Alright. Fine by me. Yeah, this world has a great deal of variety to it, but all using the core mechanics of the game itself. Again, because at this point we're able to have Oh yeah, I know. MC Tomb says 4 knights, 4 keys. I know. We've already got the first one. We used our invisibility to steal the Thief Knight's key. Now we just need to head on over to the other 2 and claim theirs. Okay, well, hold on. Idea. One of them's gotta be affected by water, because otherwise we wouldn't have a conspicuous water fruit just hanging about. At least I sincerely doubt it. And we'll riddle this one out one way or another. At any rate. The Thief Knight was insanely easy. Yep, there we go. We activated something with that. Okay, give us just a minute. We'll figure this out. So, spitting the water clearly had some kind of effect on something. Perhaps we need to extinguish the torches for whatever reason? I'm open to that possibility. Not even for this quest, necessarily. Oh yeah, I know, MC2M says Shovel Knight will give you clues otherwise. I imagined as much. And I kind of wonder if we're intended to have to go talk to him after taking each knight's key, because aside from the thief, none of them have given us any real hints whatsoever. Other than, you know, attack the fat one. Kinda, yeah. Alright, well, if that's the goal here, and I'm not just being thicker than usual, I will be more than happy to do so. Alright, that's 2 keys for you. Oh, the answer sonar. Should've known. So we rust her armor and then attack with sonar. Perfect. MC2M says powerful sonar. Oh, I know. I know, it's at this point almost completely replaced the standard sonar when it comes to puzzle solutions. So, and the poor sonar shield has only gotten one real application thus far. I guess we need to soak her a bit more. Yep. Alright. That's odd, but alright. These little guys look almost like the lungfish from Psychonauts. Not the, monstrous lungfish, but the little citizens of Lungfishopolis. One of the most imaginative stages in any platformer, for the record. Come on. What on earth? Alright, well, we'll try this again. I hate to think that this is glitched out, and it's probably not, but... Okay, so water... Oh yeah, MC2M says just the sonar shot. Okay, there it was. Now just Sir Shoot-A-Lot. It's weird in that case, like, if the sonar shot will work, why they both wouldn't be effective, but... Alright, so we just need to perform a variety of moves on him. Alright. I'm curious as to whether or not they wanted to requisition cameos from, like, any other indie protagonists or mascots. Oh no, we can't speak to him, hold on. Nope. 1, 2, 3. Your bow is a plunger, dude, or your bow shoots plungers. I'm sorry, I am not a Rayman villain, and I am therefore not susceptible to plungers. Alright, this is going to be our last time dealing with the world's least competent knights. And also Shovel Knight. It's almost time to start poking around that very large planetoid near the back of the map. Alright, that's one more Peichi for the stash. Let's take flight once more, because I swear I saw a Pagey and a KG back on the docks near, what looked like one of those adorable little frogmen, Blamphibians, I think, hosting some kind of fishing game or another. He may have been over there. Well, we'll get there in time. And we'll find it eventually. This area is actually pretty easy to explore thoroughly, since, again, the actual layout of the level is pretty straightforward. Always appreciate that. So next, I think we'll head over to, well, what are our options? There's the large planetoid. There's the one we just left. The mini golf course, and then this. I think we'll head on over here. Jesus, we'll head on over to this large robot on this outlying island. This stream will quite possibly bring us up to, or even to, the very end of the game. we'll spend some time cleaning up Ivory Towers and any obvious pages we missed elsewhere, and I'm totally open to doing like a cleanup stream for anything else at another time. But once we're through with this world, here's the little guy I was talking about. We're going to be heading more or less straight on to Capital B's office. Oh, they've got such beautiful voices. Starfishing. So the Blamphibians seem to be survivors of some tyrannical alien empire that have dedicated their days to carnival games. Makes perfect sense. Okay, so aim for yellow stars, avoid the red stars. Sounds simple enough. Yeah, and I figured we're going to be using our tongue instead. Oh, this is easy. Nope, he says as he grabs a red star by accident. We may or may not get it this time, but we'll get very close. Yeah, very... Oh, got it! We got it! Just barely. Check that out. MC2M says, nice first try there. Thank you. That probably shouldn't have gone as well as it did, if I'm being honest. But thankfully they were a little generous and actually gave us, as many games do, an extra second once the clock was actually showing absolute zero. Or absolutely zero. And we can still eat the stars. Excellent. Wish they gave you some kind of cool little stellar upgrade. But alas, on to the robot. Who is just kicking back here. We're going to have to do something to those gears, I promise you. Or that gear. So let's just keep that in mind. And oh lord, there's a lot of these elite little brain lungfish fellas. Oh, and here we get to use the, well, first off, here's the character that spoke to us when we expanded the world, and we get to use the sonar shield again. Nice, but hold on, looks like that is taking us to a place that has nothing to do with the robot, so let's take care of this area first. That's one of the reasons I love this stage, having a series of smaller oh, no. No, you know what? Screw it. We're through with you. But I love the fact that this stage has a number of much smaller islands, because you can really take a minute to just totally explore everything in one area pretty efficiently. See, I was, it's canon. I wasn't just speculating. Kartos is a degenerate, like, gambling addict who blew all his money multiple times. MC2M says, oh yes, the final one is not that bad if I recall. Well, not that bad for Kartos is still the worst part of the game. Yeah, I want to be done with this. This is it, guys. Our last time behind the controls of this terrible cart. Yeah, 175, that's what I expected. But he had to flee debt collectors clear to another galaxy. Oh wait, no, I didn't mean to say yes. Just so used to always pressing the X button whenever we see a menu like that. So as usual, we're gonna get some pretty good music. Oh no. Well, when he said low gravity, he was not kidding around. Whoops. Oh boy. So this one moves at a much slower pace. Oh yeah, here I can already see where, like, the camera's gonna be giving us a right time. Whew. Ooh, jeez. Yeah, this game has generally knocked it out of the park when it came to scoring for their mini-games. I don't mean the actual score system, but rather the music, of course. Yeah, this one is oddly chill. No, 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 no! Ah, so close. So close. There's just... This one requires so many gems, but I could see MC2 and what you said is correct. This one isn't so bad, because the decreased speed actually makes you feel like you have a greater measure of control over Kartos. You have more time to actually recover from executing maneuvers. Oh, damn it. We're just going to have to restart. That was not a great run. Just gotta keep in the forefront of my mind, Brady, you're almost done with this terrible mechanic. You're never gonna have to see it again after this. They didn't release a DLC called Whoops All Kartos. Okay, so going for that gold gem is probably just a mistake. Not in... Okay, oops. I'm doing it wrong now. Gotta take the easy break. MC2M says, when you said earlier you wondered if this was the first stage they made, what if this Kartos was the first? That, like, just the layout and, like, general speed and pacing of the track kind of makes me think that was the case. Or at least, shall we say, one of the earlier Kartos stages. And then they just added a higher gem limit to score to compensate for the fact that it's a bit easier. Yeah, maybe. The only real problem here is, like, the scarcity of resources. There's a pretty high, gem goal, and just barely enough gems total, I think, to make it, so they really want you to put the additional measure of control you're given over Kartos to the test. And again, I will hold this is much better than the other ones. Is it good? Well, no, it's still Kartos, but much better. And again, a huge part of that for me, at least, is just the soundtrack. I mean, that is some pretty exceptional music. Yeah, MC2M says, don't forget yellow gems are worth 5 gems. Oh, believe me, I have not. Is that it? Okay. All you have to do now is just not completely botch this, and we'll be there. And farewell to Kartos, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. It's finally over. Our terrible minecart-driven nightmare is over. Whew. Oh, that feels amazing. I think Yooka just said, it's been fun, Kartos. We hope you make it into the next game. If I recall, just based off of what I've seen of the sequel, he did not. Eat it, Kartos. We're done. Alright, now let's explore that robot and get back to some decent gameplay. I'm actually surprised they don't give you, trophies, given how this game seems to be built with a lot of, like, kind of, checkpoint, or milestone-based trophies. I'm surprised they didn't give you trophies for completing all of Rextro's and Kartos' challenges. And MC2M says, he's an NPC at the end, from what I read. It's possible they probably have, like, all of the cast from... Oh, no, I know the robot's here. But I was checking to see if there was any, like, cavern or something near the back of the island, because I could have sworn there was one before. No worries, You can't honestly think I'm going to go buy a giant robot and not do something with it. It's possible at the end of the sequel they, like, have everybody, in for, like, a cast roundup. So we're going to need a battery. And at some point fire... Oh! But first, we're going to dive down a giant deactivated robot's mouth, because that's a good idea. Inside Rusto. Oh, I see. We're actually going to have to be moving in and out with these. I got you. Whoops. Whoops. Good. And now that'll allow us to use the fire. If we don't first have to deactivate the fan. No, we don't. We have to light the brazier. And then the wind shall probably blow the flames out of Rusto's mouth, looking simultaneously awesome and horrifying, and melt the ice, allowing us to get our Pagey. Oh, hold on. Be right with you. Okay, hold on. I'll get it, no worries. Well, clearly this is part of the solution, because the flames need to actually be expelled from its mouth, so we don't need to deal with the current. At least not from what I can see. So instead, NC2M says it's the right move. Yeah, it's just about being totally precise, no doubt. I also noticed that it looks like we can interact with these cogs. We need to be inside the brazier. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the ones that were present in the glacier weren't quite so particular. Like, I think you could just be near them. Or no, that's because... No, we did use this to light braziers back at the glacier. But, it wasn't quite as demanding. But there we go. It worked, so no complaints. Oh, wasn't that horrifying? They were bigger braziers. Yeah, that's right. They were. I don't know if there's anything we can do with these, and we'll come back later in case there is. But now, let's go talk to, I guess, like, more or less the host character for this world, even though we've never seen her up till now. Okay, so the ringed planetoid has a pagey on it, as we'd expect. So she's clearly some kind of thief. And I'm not entirely certain we should trust this story, as the Blamphibians seem completely harmless and kind of dejected at this point. So we deactivate those and get up to the ringed planetoid. Nice and easy. Since we expanded the world, we've been, earning pages like mad. Hold on real quick, I'm curious to see how many we actually have. Yeah, 15 out of 25. And, yeah, getting close to all of the pages in the game in total. That's awesome. Nope, wrong one. Oh, and rolling into the force field just totally destroys it. Oh, alright. She generates the field, it would seem, by cackling like a madman. Alright, now we'll need her to disrupt this sort of prismatic-looking force field. You're awesome and amazing says, sorry I'm so quiet. Oh, no, don't apologize. It's alright. I'm not the most vocal streamer in the world, so you have nothing to apologize for. I'm just glad you're here. Glad you're watching. Okay, this should get us up there, and we have to be closing in at some point, either here or in the big red planetoid on this world's boss fight, which I remember seeing snippets of. MC2M's absolutely right. They say nothing wrong with enjoying a stream silently. I've seen snippets of this world's boss fight like years ago and remember thinking it was pretty cool, but I'm not entirely sure where we're at. Thank you very much for the kind words. I appreciate it. I really do. Trust me, especially in times like this, it's always great to feel valued and appreciated. I think that's true for all of us right now. Oh yeah, this is going to be leading up to the world's boss fight. I don't know much about the mechanics of the fight. I don't think I've seen the fight itself. I've seen the cutscene that prefaces it. And I think this is setting up, like, the conflict that leads to the boss fight. Oh, jeez. Well, that was close enough. Oh, it's not the boss fight? Okay. Well, we're blowing a planet up anyway. Oh, this is so cool, y'all. MC2M says the boss fight is silly and amazing. A bit like the third worlds, then. I have to say, and I want to talk about this, especially now that you're in chat, as you have some expertise as a game designer. I really do want to dissect this game's bosses once we've seen at least the major bosses in the world, because I think for a platformer, Jesus, they do some pretty interesting things with their design, and, well, there's very few that I would be able to call, or I don't think there's any I've seen so far that I would be able to call completely average. They're all either above or below sort of the median for a platformer like this. I think the boss design's very, very interesting. Yep, and we have helped begin, like, an invasion of these peaceful Midway frogs' homeworld. Okay. Oh, check out that view, y'all. Whew. It gives me chills. And that skybox, oh wow. MC2M says, I don't know much about the boss fights and platformers. Some people have spoken, at least briefly on the topic, in broader discussions of boss design. I would recommend checking out Design Doc's videos on boss design in games. I think so far they've released 2. And not only are they pretty good, but they kind of assess the multiple purposes. MC2M says, I know they're both fresh and throwbacks to classics. In this game, broadly, yes, kind of. But the Design Doc videos do a great job of assessing sort of the traditional roles a boss fight can fulfill in from a design perspective, and provide several examples of games and individual fights that do exceedingly well or poorly in one of those 3 realms. Platformers are actually included pretty extensively. In fact, one of the fights, boss fights from A Hat in Time, is singled out as having some of the most overall fantastic design in all 3 arenas that the host has seen in some time. And I have to agree, that game has phenomenal boss fights. I wish there were more of them. Unfortunately, neither of the DLC packs included boss fights. So now we can get up here. Well, I mean, with flight we could have gotten up here anyway, but now we have an easier way to access this area. And let's collect the toilet quills, because why not? Toilet quill. No doubt that's totally safe, and MC2M says, oh, I know what it can do in terms of design, but platformer bosses have not been under my examination. Well, the gold standard in that regard, people always say, is, like, look at the Mario bosses, on average, like, just through the years. They're completely and totally average for the genre. Not really exceptional in any way most of the time, but fine. That's your median. MC2M says, yeah, not a big Mario player. Oh, that... But I know them to be functional. Yeah, exactly. Functional is a very good word for the fights in Mario games. Now, Mario Odyssey had some very interesting fights. Oh, lovely. Oh, lovely. No, we're... Somebody's having a right time in there. Well, let's dive directly into the space sewers and help him out. Yeah, space plumbing. Wasn't far off, was I? MC2M says, if I had to think about designing a boss in a platformer or in general, I think it should test moves to be functional. Yeah, no, typically I think the three roles that, at least in the video series I watched just a couple days ago, emphasize that a boss can fill are as examinations of competence, as beats in the story, so like something that's significant to the plot, or as a divergence from standard gameplay mechanics. And, oh, I see what we have to do. At least in the case of a platforming boss, yeah, absolutely the most important function that they can fulfill is to be, tests of the player's competence with the baseline mechanics, I would say. Alright, now that dropped that. Great, excellent. We're going to need to find a way to move this pipe into position. Oh, there we are. MC2M says changing phases to increase the difficulty, that much is obvious. Either to increase difficulty, or in some cases, this is usually the way I would like my boss fights designed, and the way many of my favorite bosses operate. Switching phases or forms in order to test a different series of mechanics or present otherwise a different sort of challenge to players. Consider, for example, I don't know if you're familiar, but like folks watching this on YouTube definitely probably will be familiar with, it's not a platforming game, of course, but the excellent design of the Fume Knight, the final boss from Dark Souls 2's Crown of the Old Iron King DLC. He starts off with this, it is basically a standard duel, but he begins with an incredibly measured, slow stance that delivers absolutely punishing blows with extraordinarily wide arcs, from a one-handed greatsword that's damn near an instant kill on weaker characters, and then also from... Hold on, we'll get this. I just get distracted when I actually start having to speak intelligently for once. When you have to, sorry, the second weapon he has is a much shorter sword that's still nearly the size of the average player character, that is used primarily to, keep the enemy at bay or on the back foot during his combos with a larger sword. Midway through the fight, he becomes incredibly agitated, ignites the larger sword in a black, noxious flame, and uses it exclusively to mount a relentless attack on the player with a wild and kind of completely undisciplined style. So lots of rapid running slashes and leaping downward thrusts and things like that. So you go from having to very carefully watch your placement and dodge a variety of very challenging to avoid dexterously presented attacks, to having to just run like hell from this insanely aggressive attacker, while also exploiting what are generally wider windows to execute your own moves, if that makes sense. So midway through the fight, the game goes from testing the player's competence with one style of gameplay to another. Now, that isn't to say that it's easy to dodge the Fume Knight's attacks in the second half of the fight, just that the windows he provides for attacks are a little bit wider than they were in the first half of the fight. The Dark Souls series, or the Soulsborne series in general, does a really phenomenal job of testing different mechanics across different phases of gameplay, or different phases of its boss fights, and also constructing some really unique puzzle boss encounters that deal with mechanics either tangentially related to the core combat or totally removed from them. I think in particular of a boss with a somewhat mixed reception among the fan base from Demon Souls, the Fool's Idol, which was a very weak spellcaster that focused on binding the player up in these magical traps associated with glyphs on the ground that would, like, paralyze you when you stepped on them and deal just a bit of damage, while also slinging out some moderately powerful spells from a distance. You have to close in on her across this fairly crowded, busy little cathedral full of pews and, like, disused furniture tossed all about. And once you close in, she goes down, even if you fight her fairly early on in the game, which is a possibility, as that game is quite open-ended, insanely quickly. It's an easy fight. But she'll revive infinitely unless you explore the rest of that particular section's map well enough to find a fairly innocuous-looking, non-hostile enemy character who is continually praying to her and giving her strength. If you kill them, the Fool's Idol will die then, after your next confrontation, making the actual preparation for the fight far more important than your really skillful execution of the encounter itself. Like I said, they're really great at testing mechanics like that. And MC2M says, interesting, I see exactly what you mean. Well, thank you. I'm glad I explained it competently, at least, regarding the Fume Knight. Very cool fight. I do want to play through the Soulsborne series for you guys at some point. Oh, hold on. What are we... Okay, hold on, I got this. Oh, this appears to be Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Fury. Oh my god, yes, Fury. The boss design in Fury, as it was a boss only game, basically, was exceptional. I'm thinking of the line, the hand, and I want to say, was the second to last boss the burst? who all had phenomenal gameplay that was tied in very closely to their personal stories. Hang on a minute, we will get this one. I've got another idea, and I'm afraid I may have to execute it. Wakey wakey. Oh no you don't. Oh no you don't. That's it. Come on over here. That's alright. Ouch. Oh, Jesus. So he gives us no opportunity once he's agitated. MC2M says second to last is either the beat or the edge. Well, since my final boss was the star, who was also insanely well designed, though hard as hell, it was the beat. And I think the way they integrate her gameplay and story together is just phenomenal. Good God. Okay, so that's not gonna work. We're going to have to do something with these. Orbs, somehow. Give me a minute, I will figure this one out. We need to block the ball from falling somehow. Oh, yeah, falling down there. Now, what on earth can we do? Had the right idea. Jesus! These guys. Okay, so he's clearly not the answer. So some kind of sonar-based ability. The issue here is going to be placement, no doubt. There we go, so I had the right idea. Good lord. So they do not want to go down. We'll let our power bar recharge for a sec. Alright, and we're going to have to use our shield to maneuver this one around, no doubt. And after this, I think we're almost ready to go into Big Red Planet. MC2M says, did you do Fury's secret ending? I did. It just felt like the right thing to do when you're presented with that choice, you know? But goodness, that last boss it's amazing. Like, the design is incredible, but hard as all get out. Like, all three of the last bosses in a complete playthrough are really well done, I think. But, at least two of them are... Well, no, sorry. I was thinking of a different boss. The Sniper was probably one of the hardest bosses in the game, aside from the Star and the Line, for me. The Line is a ridiculously fun fight, but good God is it hard. Oh, and of course he wakes up. I also know Fury got some DLC that introduced, among other things, like one brand new fight, but I can't say that I ever In fact, I know I didn't play it. I'll take my pagey now, thank you very much. Now let's head on into this little area. Space Cog Station. MC2M says the line is a player stopper for that game. He is? But here's one of the things that attests to his design, and the design of Fury's bosses in general, for me. He's insanely challenging, but every single time he took me down, I thought, okay, that was totally my fault. I see what I need to do better next time. Let's give this one more try. I always wanted to give it one more go to get it right, and nothing compared to the feeling when I did. Now, the final boss, the damn star, was a little frustrating, but also, again, very well designed, just insanely demanding. Demanding as well, of great competence in the style of gameplay I was considerably worse at in that game. Oh, so you can't even touch the floor here. Okay. So it's a flight challenge with a ton of updrafts. Interesting. And it looks like a pretty big one at that. We can do it, though. Well, it's not necessarily a flight challenge, actually. Oh, or it is, because... Well, why on earth didn't that work the first time? MC2M says this is easy if you don't fly, use the draft. Yeah. Yeah, oddly enough, the draft didn't seem to work for us that time, but let's try again. There we go. Dang it. At least this doesn't seem to be like just a massive race like some of the others. There we go. Nice, easy pagey. MC2M says, but yeah, Fury bosses are all about skills and learning them, and the story. Yeah, absolutely. I can't say there was a single boss I found poorly designed. MC2M says, when reaching the hand, I didn't want to fight him. I felt the same way about, well, the one boss that's meant to really evoke a sense of remorse or hesitation in the player, the angel, who's fairly tricky and has just a beautiful arena, and I believe she has probably one of the best songs in the entire game associated with her, or her fight, rather. MC2M says, the angel I wanted to fight. Pretty sure she was the first one to be... Well, yeah, no, you fight the hand before her, and he's sort of, like, honorable, but she's the first boss to be, like, really quite civil to you. Looks like we're finally ready to... MC2M says, I felt it too good to be true. Now, I have actually watched or read about, one way or the other, the ending you receive if you agree to her deal, and apparently she's being completely honest. She wants the Traveler, or whatever his official designation is, to be happy and content and able to live as full a life as he can without hurting people. I kind of got the sense playing through that in deciding the relative proximity of the jailers to the real world, the leaders of whatever society it was you were dealing with, oh, we're going to need the galleon for this, be right back, sort of placed those they wanted most to exclude from their own society deeper and deeper into the prison, and kept the more honorable, the more redoubtable, the more heroic ones closer to themselves. Not only to act as a reliable line of defense, but also kind of so as not to punish them. Whereas people like the Chain, or... oh, I forget his official name, but I think maybe the Scale, the deranged, diver. Folks probably wanted to get rid of them too. Speaking of, I may actually want to play Fury for the stream at some point. I could actually really get behind a Fury sequel, now that I think about it. That's something we need. We need more games like that. MC2M says Scale is also a sad story. It is. I really liked his characterization and his design, but he's also one of the bosses I had, like, the easiest time with, so I didn't get to see much of him at all. There we go. Oh yeah, there were a couple more of these over here. Not sure if they serve any real purpose, but I'm gonna destroy them anyway. Oh yeah. Yeah, they do. This is our boss. He's an elderly planet. Now, he's not the boss, of course. So he wants us to shoot him in the butt with our explosives. Lovely. Alright, hold on then, sir, we got this. And of course there's a butt on the planetoid, because this is Platonic. And off he goes. We just murdered that planet. Well, he did ask for it, to be fair. And time for the aforementioned partner to make an appearance. Oh, the puns are unbearable. Time to fight an angry moon. Planet. The interstellar world widow. Wait a moment. we're going to need to use the corresponding weapons to destroy all of these craters, I believe. So these probably just take the standard rounds. Oh, good God. Okay, so we're going to want to stay at some distance from her, except when using the flamethrower. Oh, dear. Yeah, this is a pretty solid fight. Simple, but solid. MC2M says you can dash, by the way. I did not know that, actually. Thank you for the heads up. Ooh, and we take contact damage from her as well. Okay, that's... Or no, sorry, the dash, I did know that. I've been doing it. The X button. Okay, okay, I'm... There we go. Oh my God! Just no chance there. Oh, Lord! Okay, so having some pretty consistent issues here with, evasion. But, okay, we should be able to dodge the... Or I should say, evading her attacks while also being able to attack her. This is working now. This probably isn't gonna be our run, but we can get it. Oh my God! Okay, so pretty solid fight overall, it would appear. My only real issues are, it's a bit difficult to avoid her fire attacks, as there seems to be no real telegraphing of which jet's going to attack and in which direction when. And I would say also likewise with the ice cannons that you have to, or the ice craters that you have to destroy with the flamethrower, because you have to get right up in her attack radius to use the flamethrower effectively whatsoever. So it feels like kind of tricky to dodge there. Generally though, it's pretty solid. Oh no, there we go. The crater pulses just for a second before starting its attack. Okay. Okay, we can get those. Okay, now let's take this time to learn and see if there's any real pattern to these. And there is. They go inwards and outwards. Okay. Do your worst. Now for the more difficult round. Ooh. Good, and since I actually took the time to learn their arc, we are completely safe from those craters now. Good, good. This should be a little bit tougher. On to the third. MC2M says, my only gripe with this fight is that the action's constantly interrupted. Yeah, that's not great. It's... You'd be right in saying it's a little distracting, but okay, and she only attacks with 2 craters at a time here. Okay, so now that I'm learning the fight, I'll say many of my complaints can be retracted. Don't expect to hear that from me often, at all. But yeah, this really isn't bad at all. It's really quite nice. Just took a minute to learn. So another desperation attack, and then she's going to come up to attack us personally. And operate, I believe, just like a much more dangerous, non-elemental crater. It's also a minor thing, but I guess I'm not super fond of the fact that your positioning is reset every single time you move to a new phase of the fight. Whew. Whew. Oh, that did it. Oh, that wasn't bad at all once we actually learned how to do it, as should be the case with boss battles. Alright, and we earned another trophy, Planetary Annihilation, and a Pagey, which is far more important. Well, right on. Now we just killed 2 very, very rare sentient life forms. I'd say that's a job well done for Yooka-Laylee. Right, so now that we've actually fought most of the main game's bosses, I'd actually like to talk for a moment about the boss design we've seen in this game, because as I said earlier on in the stream, I find it really, really interesting. And actually, I will... Sorry about this, I'm just getting a little thirsty. After a quick, maybe 3-minute break to let me run and go grab a new drink. Be right back. Alright folks, we are back. I apologize for the protracted break. In that time, I got myself a new drink, checked my blood sugar, took a quick little insulin shot, so we are back to, hopefully, as I said, carry on and finish the game this evening. But as I said, before our break, let me get some of this right here. I want to discuss boss design in Yooka-Laylee as we kind of move forward, because it's something I've been giving some thought to, especially after the stream where we ran into Inept. As I said earlier on in the stream, boss fights are consistently probably my favorite part of games outside of, like, world and aesthetic design. And each of this game's 5 main bosses that we've run into has been kind of different from a lot of platformer bosses in some way or another, and I just kind of want to provide my impressions on each of them, in my characteristically absent-minded way, of course. Oh, what's this? A second challenge. The first world boss, Great Rampo, was fine. I think it served as an excellent tutorial for the new traversal move you had picked up at that point, which was the reptile roll, I think. And in that regard, did perfectly fine. You have to roll up a ramp to damage Rampo's teeth 3 times, I believe, with increasing amounts of obstacles in your way after every iteration. That, in and of itself, is perfectly fine. And indeed, I like the idea of having the player use new moves they just learned in a kind of high-pressure environment, and in several different ways. But I also feel like at that point the player hadn't been taught enough about how to effectively and dexterously use the reptile roll. Like, for instance, that you could grind to a complete halt, albeit after a little bit of slip and slide with it. As up to that point, every single challenge or use case involving the reptile roll that the player would have been introduced to involved either non-stop speed or movement along a slope, which you would kind of assume to be assume to be well, shall we say, adverse to sudden stops. And also, the overall design of the fight, and particularly Rampo's attacks, felt like they could have been tightened up just a little. For instance, when you reach the top of his ramp, not only are there thorns to either side of his mouth you have to avoid, but then there are also, MC2M says I agree and disagree with that logic. How so? That's interesting. I would say that, oh sorry, so you got thorns, and most of the time he is shooting out, a gout of flame that you have to dodge. Now, I think the idea of teaching the player or encouraging them to navigate really, really dexterously with the reptile roll by having multiple area denial effects involved in the fight while they have to target specific areas of, like, a boss character's model, in this case Rampo's teeth, is a good idea. But since you're moving so quickly up to the ramp and have to jump basically at the very apex of the range of movement available to you in order to reach Rampo's terrace, you've got a larger than average chance of jumping straight into the flame or the thorns, and it feels like that window or margin for error should have been made just a little bit more forgiving. Again, seeing as it's the first boss. Aside from that, I think it was a perfectly fine introduction to a more involved way to use one of the game's core traversal mechanics, and wasn't super engaging And, oh yeah, sorry, the one other thing I was going to mention. If you take a hit while climbing up the ramp, you obviously take a point of damage and slide back to the bottom and have to begin your ascent again. This is perfectly reasonable, and I think is, you know, kind of what you want for this type of fight. Now, however, the issue I would have with that is once you take that hit, you're knocked out of the reptile roll, and... oh, I know what to do here, I think. Break the crate. Oh, this crate. Gotcha, it's not reinforced like the others. So you have to take that hit, you get knocked out of the roll, and you're sent back to the bottom of the ramp. That's perfectly fine. However, as soon as you are knocked out of the reptile roll animation, you lose most of your ability to control the characters on their descent. And as a result, you have a good chance, especially in later phases of the fight, in, due to reasons completely, quite literally beyond your control, being knocked into, oh, I guess we have to wait for the water to drain to leave, but being knocked into subsequent obstacles and taking additional damage on top of what you've already accrued for not being able to navigate the obstacle course. So it feels like it needed a little bit of extra polish, but overall is a fine fight that succeeds in teaching the player how to work one of their more core abilities. So I'd say if I had to give it a rating, it'd probably be something like a solid C or a 2.5 out of 5. It's fine. It's not really exceptional, but does the job. MC2M says, the thing is, they kind of expected you to expand the world after seeing all the others, so if you expand directly, you don't have the skills yet. Yeah, or the experience. That's kind of weird, and it's also really strange that the first world maybe has more of its actual content locked away behind the expansion than any other save this one. Now, the boss of the second world, Breeze Block, is intended clearly to be fought near the end of the game, and is kind of insanely easy, really. I really dig the core mechanics of the fight, right? You are trapped in a room with the boss, this sort of ice block thing moving across a back wall, with access to the fruits that give you the flamethrower ability. Hold on, we'll get this. Oh wait, I know what to do. Silly me. There's honey, sure, but you could just do it this way. With the flame fruits and a series of crates that can be broken in order to... ooh, the velocity terminal. I'm excited for this. We're going up even higher, y'all. In order to expose a series of torches behind the boss. And what you want to do is keep those torches burning. They will be extinguished after a certain amount of time by a fan that's moving back and forth across the arena. And you want to keep those torches lit so that they will slowly melt the boss as it traverses over their little alcoves. Now, in addition to that, you can also directly damage the boss very, very slowly, albeit, with your Flame Breath ability, provided you get close enough to it. And the boss has only one real attack. It will open its mouth and shoot a snowball, just like the ones we can get from a snowball fruit. And instead of proper later stages, it just moves a bit more radically, very slightly, as it shrinks. And, hold on. So nothing takes you guys down, unfortunately. Jesus. And it goes from shooting one fireball to, or one snowball to 3 to, I think, 4, not even 5 at the end. Doesn't fire them any more quickly, doesn't fire them, you know, in bizarre patterns or with strange breaks in, like, the bursts. Very, very simple fight. And at no point does it seem to get more complicated or demanding. And it's far and away, mechanically, I would say, the most straightforward and easiest fight in the entire game. And for me, that's kind of a problem, especially since it's a late-game fight, and it's one of only a couple fights in the game, as we're learning now, where you are using your normal suite of abilities, full locomotion, full range of abilities, everything. And I think then... Oh dear. I think it would have been better if, for that fight in particular, the boss were afforded some additional, like, area denial, area of effect abilities, as the fight progressed. In other words, have more obstacles present in the room than his snowballs at any one time. Yes, keep those, fine. But also have debris or chunks of ice falling from the ceiling telegraphed by shadows on the ground. Since we're inside of this sentient boiler, maybe as the fight progresses and the ice begins to melt, very, very gradually, gouts of flame begin to shoot up from grates in the floor, and you have to dodge those too. So the goal becomes staying close enough to the boss in order to keep all of the torches lit and directly damage him when you can, while simultaneously having to very carefully pick your positioning in the room to avoid several different attacks, only one of which comes directly from the boss. I feel like that would have made it more engaging, more exciting, and more appropriate for that stage in the game. So breeze block, yeah, not fantastic, very easy, very straightforward, but maybe a 2 out of 5, if I'm being generous, maybe 1.5 out of 5, not a great fight. No, 2 out of 5 sounds fine, just kind of bland. MC2M says I had a lot of trouble with that fight. Oh, how so? Just positioning, or... Now... The Third World's fight with the Kraken, Trev the Tentacle, I believe. Oh, jeez. Was actually insanely well done for a platformer. It tested most of our abilities that we had earned up to that point, especially in terms of locomotion, without relying excessively on one particular move or anything. It was pretty much a direct dust-up, and one of only a couple fights in this game where it seems like your goal is just to damage the boss character directly instead of some part or component of them, or activate, oh, hold on. There we go. Oh, this is interesting. This is very interesting. And his fight was actually reasonably difficult for the Third World, which I think is overall one of the game's best stages. Tested most of your mechanics and provided you with a really reasonable platforming challenge. Or I shouldn't say platforming, but mobility challenge. You have to avoid, in addition to his large central tentacle, a variety of other attacks that will take the form of things like tentacles emerging from the ground, or inhibiting your movement with this kind of noxious goo, while also having to move around to these different platforms and attack him. And as the fight progressed, more and more of these elements would be present in the room simultaneously, like the goo preventing you from moving, while the tentacle, the large one, is sweeping and slamming back and forth across the room, and a smaller tentacle is pursuing you. It was just exceedingly well done, and I think built from progressed, I should say, in difficulty and complexity from phase to phase really well. Felt like the most fleshed out proper boss fight we've seen in the game so far. Not the flashiest, but I'm curious to see where this leads, if anywhere. Nowhere of note. Alright. Just checking. NC2M says, I just had to figure out the positioning. Yeah, I would try to break out of the area. Ah, I see. Yeah, the isometric positioning for a boss fight in a game like this is a little weird, admittedly. Now let me check something. We have most of the pages here. We're just missing one that's active, like, out in the world. And I don't know if it's here or not. Let me try something. But at any rate, the Trev fight, the little Kraken, absolutely lovely. Think they did a phenomenal job with it. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. Pretty well-rounded, not a whole lot to work on. Maybe you could have made the fight a bit more involved, given us some more targets to hit or something. But Inept, oh good lord, Inept. I've actually been thinking about that one for some time. I really got thinking about this boss design and everything after the stream wherein we fought Inept on Kartos. And okay, it doesn't look like you can just totally break the game and dive down to the bottom of that large orb. Okie dokie. Because the fight was so bad and so inappropriate to the area wherein it was found, I started seriously thinking about this game's boss and encounter design and how it may be improved. And that one I think has the most room for improvement, because not only is it fought on Kartos, which automatically makes it one of my least favorite things in the game, but it didn't even seem to make use of his mechanics properly. Basically, the entire fight was a series of challenging jumps you had to make, with you firing on the boss's display screen when it lowered it down to a platform that you were on. Okay, sounds easy enough, right? And yeah, in theory, but Kartos controls like, a shopping cart with a wobbly wheel, basically. Precision, generally speaking, is just not what he does, even though that's what most of his gameplay is based around. So, we have there's our last Ghost Rider. Let's, galleon up and go get it. The Inept fight was, well, we don't even necessarily need to galleon up, but yeah we do. Was particularly galling because, okay, we're taking away your basic moveset and we're forcing you to use a mechanic that many people, thankfully it's not just me, but like a lot of folks I've seen, would agree is probably one of the worst executed, not necessarily conceived, but executed in the entire game that we've shoehorned in everywhere. We're forcing you to use that for this one boss battle. It has precious little to do with the mechanics or particularities of that world, which was designed, I think, to be kind of a change of pace, and succeeded in many ways. And we're basically just going to have you jumping using this very, very rigid, predefined little arc, and that's it, over various obstacles, and then firing your cannon whenever your cooldown permits. And 2 of the stages, as a result, were incredibly simple. Not necessarily easy, just very, very simple, the second and third phases. Whereas the first was made even more frustrating than usual, because if Inept damaged you at any point prior to the last volley or 2 of projectiles he would fire, he would taunt you and then immediately repeat that particular sequence again without giving you an opportunity to strike. Now, the real issue or conclusion I came to was, for this world in particular, for the capital Casino, and for what Inept is, like in-universe, not as a joke, that fight should not have involved Kartos whatsoever, because you see, Inept is a much larger version of those little security drones that we've seen throughout the game that can be, You're Also Amazing says, hey, sorry, I'm back. No, don't apologize again. We're just talking boss design as we get ready to, finish up the game. I'm gonna head back to Ivory Towers real quick. We may be back, may not, depends. But the Inept boss fight should not have involved Kartos whatsoever, because the Inept was a basic, or a larger version of the security drones we've seen throughout the game, right? You know, that project the little green sweeping field of beams and instantly home in on us with lasers if we transgress through that field. So, what do we learn right around the same time we enter the capital Casino, huh? Several moves that greatly expand our repertoire of maneuvers. We've got invisibility, which we have already been taught to use to evade the scanning grids projected by those drones. And we've got the spin dash, or we should have it at any rate, which allows us to, in addition to breaking through a variety of barriers, move at great speeds, evade certain attacks, and oh, geez, forgot about that. So what I would propose is that instead of Kartos and all of that mishigash, what Inept's fight should have involved is it as a largely stationary, perhaps, well, security mainframe. Maybe you have to fight it in the vault, surrounded by a series of cameras and security fields and things like that. Barriers and maybe either turrets or the smaller drones moving all about. And you've got to find ways to access various parts of, like, this massive drone's body and decommission them using your new moves. Because think about it, by the time we get to Capital Casino, with the spin dash, with invisibility, our moveset is greatly expanded. More so than it has been in a single world, I think, with the moves gleaned from a single world, at any point previous in the game. So why don't we instead use a boss fight that's thematically appropriate to this world, and that plays around with a lot of the new traversal options and mechanics that we've unlocked recently. And again, you could still make all the great jokes you want about the Kinect not being able to see or recognize you, and in fact, if you're in a boss fight that uses invisibility and stealth, evasion as a central mechanic, you've got all the more reason to do so. So inept as it is, absolutely atrocious, and a real shame because that fight, that concept, that world had so much potential. Giving it a 1 out of 5 barely functions. Oh, and You're Awesome and Amazing has more messages. Says, "You're awesome and amazing. I appreciate you a ton. You're a really great streamer and I love being here. I only hope that you grow larger and larger while having fun and enjoying your time on Twitch." Thank you so much. That's so kind. I really appreciate it, and appreciate your willingness to share such kind words and positivity with us. I think everybody could use some of that right about now. Glad you're here. Also say, always a joy seeing you and MC here. Thank you very much. Said, out of curiosity, do you have a Discord server or Discord account I can join or add? I don't at the moment, but I may look into setting up a channel at some point. I'm not the most technologically competent person in the world, but I will do, if you'd like. You say that's what I'm here for. Well, I'm glad you're here then, definitely. Now, one thing I wanted to check out. Well, one of a couple things I wanted to check out. But MC2M suggested to us last time around that we head back to the beginning area of the game, right around Yooka-Laylee's ship. So we'll do just that. You're Awesome and Amazing says, if you do, I'd love to help, and I'd love to join it to chat with you all off stream. Of course. I'll try to get something like that set up as quickly as I can. Yeah. MC Tomb says, I'm thinking about how the World 4 boss came to be. Okay, so I'm obviously not a designer, nor do I have any particular expertise in that regard. Well, the academic fields I work in are history and political science. So I'm about as low-tech in my knowledge as you could get. But I honestly think it comes down to the fact that someone on the dev team, somebody really high up, absolutely adored the minecart mechanics. They just wanted the minecart mechanics to be a really integral part of the game. Maybe somebody in charge or with the ability to make these types of decisions, and they said, why don't we have a boss fight with this fantastic backdrop, this beautiful, beautiful casino, based largely around the minecart. But no, I think because it's the only mechanic, like unusual mechanic, that diverges from the central traversal, that has absolutely, is present in the exact same form in every single world. The only one. Rextro's minigames are different. The knights have you perform different, unique little tasks every time you run into them. The races only really occurred twice. MC2M says, I don't buy into that argument. When you look at each boss, they clearly wanted to have independent movesets for each, or at least an independent repertoire of maneuvers that would be emphasized in that fight. I'm thinking about bosses 1, 2, and 3, which were all fought as standard Yooka-Laylee, but each required you or encouraged you to do different things. MC2M says boss 5's about using the transformation moves. Speaking of which, Planet, the fifth and final boss, is, I would say, really, really solid, really serviceable. The Galleon's controls are just a bit slippery, so they're not... It wasn't a perfect fight, but as, like, kind of an homage to, like, old-school, I think, kind of space shootery mechanics, albeit executed in this kind of game, it was perfectly serviceable. The setup was ridiculous, it was quite amusing, and I think they did a really, really solid job with it. It was great to see one of the transformations actually used in a boss fight, and in fact, I think World Force Boss also would have been more entertaining. Yet another way we could fix this fight, if you used the assault helicopter for it. But not a bad fight at all. Required you to use each of the different types of elemental ammo you've become acquainted with over the course of the game, barring water, of course, and presented a fairly reasonable challenge and learning curve. I'd say better than average, 3.5 out of 10. There you go. MC2M says boss 5 is about using transformation, boss 1 is about rolling and accuracy. Hold on, I hear the new, or the collectible alarm. Just a moment. Boss 2 was aim, boss 3 was dodge and traversal. Boss 4 would then be about Kartos moves. Not that it was well done, but I think that's how it went. Yeah, no, I was talking... I think we're largely saying the same thing here, in that it sounds to me, at least, like Kartos was considered to be such an integral or significant part of the gameplay design itself that when they were considering these different categories of gameplay that could be integrated into boss fights, you have, like, okay, these 3 different aspects of the base platforming, then transformation, then Kartos qualifies as his own thing that is already, that is, like, really, really significant in this game. If that makes sense. Like, none of them tested, for instance, your shooting abilities. Or your, I should say, your first-person aim and shooting abilities with, there we go. With, Yooka, or at least not to any real, rigorous standard. Oh, I see a pagey. Let's get him. Love the 3 painted on the side of the hull. And it looks like there's something up here. Yes, yes. Oh, it's the cannon. Was not expecting to find him up here. MC2M says, kinda, just not convinced that love for Kartos was the argument for the boss, more like trying to be unique. Possibly, yeah. I'm thinking that like a real passion for or dedication to that mechanic is certainly what led it to be integrated into each and every world. But you could be correct in saying at the point where Kartos was already just present in a great deal of the game's content, and they were looking for something different, they could have decided, hey, we've already got a ton of challenges involving this mechanic, why not use that? Alright, so we've just got to jump on the cannon again. And there's another pagey for us. We've come so far. MC2M says be sure to fly around. Okay, we'll take a look at what we've got. We already got the pagey that was over here, of course. So... Yeah, nothing over there. It'd be great if there was, though. There another quill down here that I didn't get? Oh, yes, there is. We're just about ready to go take down Capital B. And maybe have, like, a cleanup stream for this, much like we're going to do with Hand of Fate at some point in the future. MC2M says check above trouser, okay. Oh, yeah, this whole little ridge is explorable now. Oh, hey! I'll take that. We got the Raising the Bar trophy, ostensibly for collecting all of the health gauge expanding items. I'm very interested to see how this final boss is designed, because I've heard, again, according to several of the reviews I watched, Capital B is, has a actually very well-designed fight. Some people apparently hate it, but the reviewers I've seen actually seem quite fond of it overall. Thank you very much for that, MC2M. Appreciate it, man. Oh man, flight just breaks this game. It's beautiful, isn't it? Hey, Steel Games, what's going on? Welcome to the stream. We are just about to finish the game up, at least, tackle the final boss at any rate. We will return to do a bit more digging around in Yooka-Laylee at some point in the future. What I'm thinking of doing, right? Tell me what y'all think of this idea. Because there's a lot of games like this one, like Hand of Fate, like, well, really most games I'll play, that have some kind of optional or, like, post-game content. I could wait until I've got 2 or 3 games like that lined up, where there's just a little bit of content left to finish off, and start doing, like, cleanup weekend streams, like on, Saturdays or Sundays, probably. Just maybe even hop around between a couple games, doing a little bit more in each one to try to get close to 100%. Or at least all the content we want to see. What do we think? I feel like that would allow us to keep progressing through brand new content and new games on the channel throughout the week, while revisiting games that we've enjoyed previously to squeeze every last drop out of them on the weekends, or at least one day a week. MC2M says, I mean, lots of cleanup on Hand of Fate, but sure, yeah, no, we've got technically 3 companion quest lines, which would probably take up half a stream themselves, and then really those Brimstone quest lines, which are pretty long. Pretty long. I'm so glad everybody's in chat tonight. Glad to see we've got a fair few folks with us live. So happy that all of you are here. Thanks for watching, really. All right. Oh, hold on a minute. Real quick, I just want to make sure I'm not missing any pages, like, directly overhead in this room. Doesn't look like it. MC2M says I'm missing an obvious page. Okay. Steel Game says, someone recommended me. Well, thank you so much, Awesome and Amazing. I appreciate you spreading the word. I really do, actually. It's great to know that this stream's of a quality sufficient for folks to say, hey, I want to subject somebody else I know to this. Alright, obvious pagey. Typically, the more obvious it is, the harder it is for me to pick it out. Oh, of course. I actually don't know if I saw that my first time in here. I may also get and play the sequel at some point. I know the gameplay style is very different, and it takes place exclusively in one world, which is kind of disappointing, but I've heard that the actual core gameplay itself is a significant improvement, so I think it would be worth a look. Steel Game says, Overanalyst, how are you today? I'm doing alright, thank you very much. I'm relaxing. There's been, well, I got as much work done as I could today. I'm assisting my boss in teaching a Intro to U.S. History course online this month, so it's a condensed semester. You're doing in 5 weeks what you could normally in 15, and under the conditions of a global pandemic, so we got a whole lot of stuff to do. But I'm doing alright, thank you very much. What about yourself? How's everybody doing this evening? Oh, thank you so much, Maisie, I appreciate it. And MC2M says, I want to get into the next game with this team, but I started Satisfactory and Crosscode. Oh, I've heard Satisfactory can get addictive. Now, see, here's the thing. I need to find a decent, like, controller binding setup for it. But I really want to get into Mountain Blade Bannerlord, which I own. I have on early access. I've just played next to none of. If you've seen gameplay, compared to the first one, which was released, God, ages ago, it is absolutely gorgeous and offers you so many options for some really, really great kind of mindless medieval combat. Alright, let's see. Maisie says, Steel is another great streamer. I found him when he was around 10 followers as well, and I just had to share him with you. You both are positive inspirations, and I'm happy to introduce you both. Thank you so much. Steel says, since I'm here, let me introduce myself. My name is Steel Games, and I'm a Nintendo family-friendly variety streamer. Well, glad you're here. Just got off working at the gym. Oh, that's lovely. I miss the gym so much. So much. Well, it's kind of funny. I live in an absolutely fantastic apartment complex. Just moved here a few months ago. It's my first home beyond the family home, actually. and it's in like this wonderful, like well-developed part of town that seems totally safe and well located relative to like supermarkets and all that. But all of this pandemic hits, and I'm like, oh, I'm in the best place for it. I have type 1 diabetes, so I'm at risk, and I live, my building in particular, directly between a massive retirement community and the city hospital. So I have been like just stuck inside. I really do miss working out though, and I'm actually looking into getting myself an elliptical for the home because goodness gracious. MC2M says, as a Sega team player, Sega does what Nintendo don't. I will say this, as a publisher, Sega knocks it out of the park, man. Total War, give me just a minute so I can finish responding to all these messages. Total War, Yakuza, and like the spin-offs, all fantastic. I cannot wait to dive into the Yakuza Remastered Collection, which I have in a cabinet right over there and just have not touched yet. Finished Judgment a little while ago, and it was just incredible. Steele says, well, I just got here. If you think of it, in the 90s, the Sega was superior. Yeah, in many ways, especially technologically. Sega systems were a little more robust, but I think what ultimately did the job was Nintendo did a much better job of, like, recruiting third-party talent, at least after the initial wave of developers aligning with Sega because they had much looser restrictions for censorship and content and the like. But like Nintendo just had a wider market, and they also had way more pull with the public. They were just the family name for video games at the time. And Maisie says they both have some nice IPs. They do. They really do. Right now, I'm playing through, for the first time, I got a Wii U in just a few days, or about a week ago. I'm playing through Paper Mario Color Splash, which I've heard a lot of kind of mixed things about, and I'm having a very good time with it. I'm quite fond of the Paper Mario IP in particular, and while I'm so hungry for a classic Paper Mario-style game, what we've got is perfectly fine, and I'm looking forward to Origami King in a few weeks here. And with that said, ladies and gents, let's see what we have. We are just 12 pages short of the goal, considering that 5 of those are tied to quill completion in each world. I'd say we've done pretty well for ourselves. Now, of course, I'm going to be coming back at some point to clean up the rest of this, the remaining Ghost Riders, that last power expander, all of this. And hopefully, like 100%ing the game, or at least getting all the collectibles. But right now, to cap off tonight's stream, you know, with a little bit of fire, actually, like, have a really satisfying conclusion to one of these streams, we're gonna take on Capital B. Since we have more than enough pages to crack open his office. Still says, think of it like Disney versus Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon did what Disney wouldn't do. Yeah, that's largely correct. Also, a lot of people point to Sega's kind of refusal to completely switch to a newer or more robust platform, instead favoring to continually release add-ons and kind of gimmicky peripherals for the Master System, or Genesis. Sorry, the Sega Genesis. I think it was called the Master System in European markets, though I could be wrong about that. As like another serious misstep that Sega, like, corporate made. I'm curious to see how this fight goes, and in particular, how many of our different abilities that we've accrued it's actually going to make use of. Mega Drive, that was it, sorry. MC2M says the Sega Mega Drive was my first console. Oh, nice. I think a Super Nintendo I inherited from my older siblings was my first. Then a Game Boy Advance, the original. Before you got any of those lovely models that actually had a self-lit screen. MC2M says, then I had the Game Boy and the amazingly bad Infogrames games. Oh, that takes me back. Oh, again? Hey, Dr. Quack. Let's get this over with. I do appreciate that they're giving us one last chance to square off with Dr. Quack before capital B. Steele says, I'll be back in 20 minutes, need to work out. No problem, man. Now, if we answer these questions quickly enough, we should only have to contend with 5. This should be easy enough. The tropics, right? Yeah. Maisie says, my first handheld was the Game Boy Advance. My first console was probably the Sega Genesis or the Wii. Both pretty solid consoles overall, and the Game Boy Advance was amazing. That was my childhood right there. I love the jaunty little walk across the tiles that Yuka's been taking. Trousers camo cloak move. Makes Yuka invisible, obviously. Hivory Towers, of course. MC2M says never had the Game Boy Advance or Game Boy Color, just the original one, still functional. Nice. Well, the original Game Boy was built like a tank. Those things can take just about any kind of wear and tear, from what I've been told. That would be Capital Casino. Steele says my first handheld was the Game Boy Pocket. Don't think I ever had one of those, but again, have heard good things. And Maisie says, same with my Game Boy Advance. So many memories. Oh, man. Trying to remember what my favorite game I had as a kid was. For the Game Boy Advance, specifically. Man, there was a lot of crap for that console. There really was. There was a lot of crap. But one of my favorite games probably had to be Wario Land 4. That was exceptional. Had an awesome soundtrack as far as Game Boy games went. And with that, Dr. Quack is down for the count. Maisie says the Nokia of the Nintendo handhelds. Oh, didn't Nokia try to make some kind of either gaming platform or a device that would be compatible with like PS2, GameCube, Xbox era games, like some sort of portable, dockable device? Was that Nokia? Maisie says, I had so many wacky games that are pretty much unheard of nowadays. Wario Land's amazing. Yes, it is. Oh, I love Wario Land Shake It on the Wii. So did I. That art style, like the hand-drawn art for that game is amazing. It was produced by Intelligent Systems, I believe. The same folks who made... I want to say they made either the Mario and Luigi series or the modern Paper Mario games, like Color Splash, Origami King, and that one that we never ever talk about. MC2M says they did try a thing, yes. And Macy says that's new to me. Yeah, no, I remember seeing ads for it, like, in Nintendo Power or something back in the day. And I remember looking at it at the time and saying, man, that looks like garbage. It was a very cheap-looking peripheral. Okay, so we finally get to brawl with capital B. And... Dr. Quack tried, guys. He really tried. You alright, buddy? Oh, poor guy. Nacy says, oh yeah, Nintendo Power. I'm trying to remember now. I feel like I've read somewhere they either have resumed or had plans to resume publication in a strictly online format. I could be wrong, though. Often am. I'm digging the arena. Well, time to liquidate BA. Yeah, that is some impressive, short-term growth, I will say. I can only assume that was a +2 potion of recurrent user spending. Alright, let's do it. Oh. Oh dear. Nice try. There we go. There we go. MC2M says the Sonic Explosion works better. Oh, I'm certain it does, as has been the case with the sonar consistently throughout this game. But this seems... oh. This... well, I say it was working just fine. Oh, on the bees? Oh, so we actually have time to get rid of them. Okay. Oh, we're just inside of his range every time. That's my bad. That is on me. Okay. Let's reorient ourselves and do this right. I got this, no worries. Now that I finally learned how to deal with you, you're kind of sad, capital B. I'm sure the rest of his attacks will be added as paid DLC after release. See, I did not know that the bees just circle you for a while. I had assumed that they would deal damage on contact. That can't be it, right? Oh, this is gonna be fun. Phase 2. Ooh. Well, let's axe all the corplets first. I would use first-person aiming, but we've also got to follow him around, so... If they really wanted to make this challenging, they could have sent up some of those completely unsuppressible orange corplets. Fortunately, the radius on his hives is extremely small this time around. Okay. Well, he's taking quite a few hits, but he's... Oh, I thought he dropped that hive and it remained on the ground. Wondered if we could do anything with it. I'm guessing not. Could really go for one of those grenade plants right about now, I tell you what. Okay. And he's still going. And still going. Oh, no, now we just have to nail him, I bet. No, there we go. Probably have to beat him into a full retreat and then clip him again. Or no. That did that. Macy says this is gonna be fun. Oh, we made plenty of bee puns on our first stream, best believe. Alright. Oh, now you're talking. MC2M says, don't be still. Yeah, no, a good old area denial phase. I absolutely love stuff like this. Oh. I've seen this before. In the very first boss in Sly Cooper. Good to know I can just tail whip him over now, though. Yeah, no, this is basically the Sir Raleigh... Yeah, Sir Raleigh fight from Sly Cooper's Tide of Terror. MC2M says, be still, Ethan. Love these puns, y'all. Alright, so now we're gonna deal with a smaller arena, right? And oh my god, this is exactly Sir Raleigh's fight. Oh, minus the bees. Oh, I pressed the correct button, I thought. Oh, jeez. There we go. Okay, so we're going to have to launch a very strategic sonar explosion as he releases the bees. Oh, well, almost there. And almost dead. This may or may not be our run. Probably not, but still. We'll certainly get this the next go-around. Oh, I see. Oh, dang it. So close. So close. We'll definitely get this next time, though. There's only the one phase that's really difficult. I like this, though. It's a fairly challenging, robust final boss that asks you to use all of the, principal mechanics you've learned up to that point in the game. I know you can use the tail whip, I just feel like the spin dash is a million times more appropriate. He's way more durable than you'd imagine, I'll give him that. MC2M says, if they really loved Kartos, he would be in this fight. Hey, I've still not written it off. I already feel like this is too enjoyable, and, like, I'm halfway expecting him to show up at some point, maybe even if it's just, like, to race us out of Ivory Towers after we defeat Capital B. Now, this is the longest phase, but also, if our first go-round was any indication, I'd say probably the easiest. And yeah, you're absolutely right, though. I think I can easily see them designing this phase based around Kartos instead of the little ice ball mechanic that I do genuinely adore. Okay, I guess he's got to maintain X amount of distance from us each time. MC2M says this phase can be done differently. How so? Does it involve sonar somehow? He fires 3 beehives, then pauses. So you can aim and fire. Oh, okay. I noticed this time we're getting several hits in on him successively most of the time. The great thing about chasing him around like this, though, is that you always pass by one of the plants to resupply as you chase him. So you should never or hardly ever run out of ammo. Next phase. MC2M says what you're doing is the easy version of this fight. Yeah, that phase is, or that method at least, did seem to be pretty simple. Now this last phase I really like, I do. It is a harder version, slightly harder version, of, like I said, a boss from one of my favorite platformers of all time, which I would love to play for you guys just as soon as I get my PS3 and its gear out here. Shouldn't we just take that staff and chuck it into the acid at this point? MC2M says the only thing that makes me nostalgic is the Gruntilda fights. I've heard some people draw some serious parallels between those battles and this one. I've heard that the second game's fight in particular was really, really well regarded by fans. The first one was apparently, like, just solid, like, decent. Well, I know what to do, kind of, but it involves taking a hit, and I don't care. I'll take that hit. I've got the health to take that hit. Ooh. Tried to activate my shield at the last second, but to no avail. Alright, now this one isn't as bad as the second phase. Alright, almost there, I would imagine. One more round. MC2M says the Banjo-Tooie fight was epic. Yeah, that's what I thought. People seem to really like that one. Oh, still not done. Jeez, there's a lot to this fight. I appreciate that. I love my multi-phase boss fights. Oh no, it's going to be all the mechanics at once, isn't it? It's a messy solution, but it is indeed a solution. Oh, come on now. Seriously? There's more? Oh, Lord. Okay, so I know what we want to do very generally, but we want to direct the missiles back into him with our flight, I'm guessing. Like so. Well, they do test just about all the major abilities you learn throughout the game, so I appreciate that. Really appreciate that, actually. Dang it. Oof. Are you kidding me? Is that power meter gonna recharge anytime soon? No! Oh, God. So, I've no idea how to manage the stages of the fight where he throws out homing bees and attempts to stomp on us. None whatsoever. Because the sonar explosion takes so much time to execute that it guarantees you're going to be hit by capital B, and you don't have time once he lands to actually perform the sonar explosion before he recovers. The rest of the fight I can manage pretty simply, actually. MC2M says, use the sonar explosion right next to him when he lands. We'll give it a try. Because, yeah, the rest of the fight's pretty simple, actually. Alright, let's get moving. Okay. Yeah, and if you stay moving, it seems like those hives can't hit you at all. Oh, poor corplets. They're no help to him at all, are they? Welcome back, Steel Games. We are now on our third attempt at the final boss fight, and the one where I'm thinking we'll get it. We're, I would assume, very, very near the end. It's quite a lengthy fight. I've counted at least 6 separate phases. Yeah, this phase is effectively effortless. That's a sick dress cane, though. I would love to own something like that. Actually, the coloring and pattern on this suit, on his suit is pretty sweet as well. Looks like something I'd wear to work, honestly. Steel says, I don't understand how this game got a bad rating or a bad rap. It's a good game. Generally speaking, I'd agree. It's like got a lot of heart, but it does feel very rough and kind of underpolished in some areas. Oh, that worked perfectly. Thank you very much, MC2M. I would say it's good enough and has a significant... sorry about that. Significant enough amount of promise as an IP, and enough color and flavor that it's kind of an enjoyable little romp. To warrant another crack at this type of game from the same team. I would love to see them return to this exact formula, maybe expand upon it, give us a game with more smaller, more intentionally designed worlds, and I think they'd really have something special in their hands. I know the second game is exceedingly well regarded, but I'm slightly disappointed that they abandoned the concept of 3D collectathon platforming altogether in favor of something a bit more narrow. MC2M says it's a decent game, but as a collectathon, you want to enjoy everything, or not be bothered by anything. If this wasn't a collectathon, it would have a much better view. Well, I think that and expectations were so high for it after the really publicized crowdfunding campaign it enjoyed, to where it would have to do it would have to be basically the perfect collectathon platformer everybody had been craving since like the Nintendo 64 era, in order to avoid getting some kind of backlash. So do I think it deserves the extremely negative reviews it received from some outlets? No. But I would hardly give it a review quite as positive as, say, Cat Icarus's or Nitro Labs. Steel Game says, I don't go by others' ratings, I go by me, watch the game, and then play it for my review. I tend to do the same, myself. MC2M says, I tend to look at a game jacket before buying. Jackets tell a lot. That is absolutely true. You get a very good scope of the content a game has to offer by the little blurbs or bullet points as far as features and the like they try to sell you on. Yeah, this is the run. We got it. Oh, MC2M says, I don't look at the bullet points, just the pictures shown. Alright. Not done, are we? Oh, of course not. Yeah, but now we can take a couple hits and recharge our power. Oh. That one missed him somehow. Probably gonna have to do that once more. Well, at least one of them hit home. Oh, come on now, little missiles. Lock on to the boss man's heat signature, why don't you? Again, we had missiles come into contact. Oh, I see what we have to do. Yeah, this is much easier. Lead them into him the direct way. Is that? Oh, is that it? Yeah, trophy earned, out of business. That's capital B, out of commission. Another trophy, potion commotion. MC2M says a product of love will have a picture that reflects it. If it looks gaudy, I generally stand clear. And Steel Game says, I just bought 51 Clubhouse games for the Switch. At first I was like, this game's not going to be good, but when I played the demo, it was really enjoyable. Or more enjoyable than expected. So I bought the game and it's so addictive. And Maisie says, oh my god, lucky it's on my to-buy list. We should play it together at some point. People, I will say this. That game, and it's got the title of one of those garbage minigame collections, you know, shovelware stuff that you'd see pumped out en masse for the Wii or Wii U. But according to the online reviews I've seen, and believe me, I'm not the kind of guy who goes digging for reviews of a game called 51 Great Clubhouse Games. But according to the reviews I've chanced upon, it's apparently really deceptively good. That was a very satisfying final boss. We got to use just about every major gameplay mechanic, especially regarding like traversal mechanics. The reptile roll, obviously Laylee's various sonar abilities, flight. Nearly everything we learned for our base moveset, save the ground pound and the oh, it's the cannon. Save the ground pound and the invisibility move. We used just about everything else. That's incredible. Oh, and they got locked away in Tribal Stack Tropics, apparently. MC2M says you can ground pound capital B. Oh, I know you can. It's just not required at any point. Yes, let's all celebrate. Everyone but Kartos, that is. Everyone but Kartos. Is there like a debtor's prison world that we can lock him up in? Because I'm fairly certain he never made good on his losses at the casino. Oh no, he's here. Dang it. It is lovely to see all of the characters from the various worlds here at the end. I believe the Banjo-Kazooie games did something similar, maybe? At least for recurring characters. Well, you guys actively, the Knights anyway, actively impeded our progress at several points. And our heroes don't even get any credit. Lovely. Steel says, all I ask is everyone here, if you're gonna buy 51 Clubhouse games, play the demo before buying it. Please play the demo before buying anything on the Switch. I'd agree. Generally, if demos are available for any software you're interested in, give them a try first. There is literally no risk attached to it. MC2M says, I don't have a Switch, not really planning on getting one, can't play the demo. That's fine. The Switch does have a lot of, like, kind of niche appeal games. I use it almost exclusively for, well, console exclusives, Nintendo first-party games. But also some of the unique remasters that are released for it. For instance, the Switch is home to a fantastic collection of, or fairly cheap as well, I believe, Bayonetta 1 and 2 that's got a fantastic value attached to it, as well as, I've not played it yet, though I do own it, a remaster of... Oh, and we get a nice little credit sequence. A remaster of The Wonderful 101, a game I never played on Wii U. So I'm really excited to dive into that. I love Platinum Games' work, and I'm very excited to see something again in the general style of, presentation-wise, I mean, of Beautiful Joe. Grew up with those games on the GameCube, absolutely adored them. Even the DS one, that a lot of folks had kind of mixed reception of, I thought was perfectly solid. MC2M says, I have Bayonetta on Steam. It's a great game. I've not finished it because I'm like an aggressive perfectionist who's also really bad at character action games. So I just like constantly retry specific sections and stages and all that until I'm able to get a solid rating, as well as all of the all-times, which are, some of them, very demanding. Very suitable successor of to Devil May Cry. And Steel Game says, play the demo before buying anything on Switch, because on the eShop, they don't have a refund policy. It's generally true, I believe, for most consoles online marketplaces, with the general exception of countries where laws mandate online retailers to have avenues in place for securing refunds easily. In the US, you can get special like refunds through a certain procedure that will, I believe, also lock you out from ever downloading that software again, but hey. Steel Game says, I wish they did, because on Steam, if you buy something, you can get a refund on it. Absolutely, and let me tell you, Steam needs a refund policy, because the amount of, like, barely functional games that make their way onto Steam, well, there's entire YouTube channels that have been kept aloft on the backs of really bad Steam games alone, some of which are amazing and legendary, such as The Slaughtering Grounds, for instance. One of the worst games of, was it 2014? Was it already so long ago that that those guys started pumping out asset flips left, right, and center on Steam? And Maisie says, I wish the Switch had a way to send messages to people on your friends list, because sometimes people change their names, or randoms add you, and it gets confusing. I personally want to chat with some people like that, etc., etc. Yeah, and MC2M says, the issue with Steam is that everyone requested to access any game. Well, as I understand it, I'm a huge fan of Jim Sterling, who has covered the issue of subpar products, like poorly optimized, or in some cases completely inoperative products being released on Steam haphazardly, was that the Greenlight program had a series of very poor safeguards for quality in place, basically minimal criteria for quality that would be required to be met in order for publication, right? And the Steam Direct policy has even fewer. Effectively, as long as you have a working executable and you pay the requisite fee, you have a very, very good chance of your game going live on Steam Direct, regardless of how shoddy, how difficult it may be to run, and in some cases, regardless of how well it qualifies as a game at all. Steel Game says, oh, I need to buy Burnout Paradise on the Switch. No, my wallet. I've actually never played Burnout Paradise, but I've heard amazing things about it. I'd love to try. And MC2M says Steam Greenlight was a good idea. I'll agree with you there. Good idea, but there needed to be more direct oversight and curation on the part of Valve's or Steam's quality assurance team. That doesn't mean they have to put in place draconian measures that make it to where independent devs or small teams can't ever get their stuff on the platform. No, far from it. But rather, it would be nice to see, in addition to the greenlight process, games having to make it through a play session or two with either Valve staff or very trusted third parties involved to determine, okay, does this game function properly? Does this game simply reuse or resell asset packs from the Unity store wholesale? Is this game, ridiculously low quality and or offensive or something, and if so, how do we want to address that? I think that would be a good idea. MC2M says they actually had that kind of policy in place, but it wasn't enough. Well, as I understand it, when such policies did exist, they were invoked extremely irregularly and often pretty laxly. So the idea would be, yeah, in theory it's supposed to meet all these benchmarks, but in actuality, if you've got a working executable file attached to the games package, then it makes it through that step, when it probably shouldn't. But anyway, here we are talking about Steam curation. MC2M says, because any Valve employee can play any game on Steam. Oh, so much garbage. So much garbage. But the thing is, they won't. That's right. We could do a couple streams of, Steam garbage once I figure out the best way to stream from my computer. I think that could actually be a lot of fun. But anyway, here we are at the conclusion now of Yooka-Laylee. And I have to say, as seems to kind of be the consensus here in chat, it's a reasonably good game. It's certainly a fun, lighthearted, very colorful action platformer with exceptionally, not action platformer, more of a puzzle platformer, but regardless, harkens back to the design principles and aesthetics of the 90s that they were going for. Its biggest shortcoming really seems to be, though, that they transplanted a 90s design philosophy wholesale into this modern work, and that includes all of the wonderful things that Rareware 3D platformers were known for, but unfortunately also many of their shortcomings. For instance, navigation around the large, wide-open 3D worlds oftentimes felt a little bit aimless, and it was difficult to keep track of what was where, a lot of Alexes donated to this game. Or what had or had not been done. So something as straightforward as perhaps a checklist of pages that had been received for every world, sort of the way that Mario Odyssey handles its power moons, might have been somewhat helpful in mitigating that. Also, the controls or mechanics in general based around things like combat or traversal with the unusual modes of movement like the reptile roll or flight felt very, very slippery. And it's not bad whatsoever, but there are certainly a lot of rough spots, I think, that could have been buffed out. Now, where the game excelled above all other areas, I would say, was in its artistic direction. The visuals, as well as the soundtrack, the latter of which was provided in part by legendary composer Grant Kirkhope, who had previously worked on the Banjo-Kazooie series for Rareware, they're absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, I'm thinking particularly the visuals for the last the last two worlds, the casino and the Galleon Galaxy, just phenomenal, as well as several of the vistas and the skybox for the glacier, which is overall probably my least favorite world in the game. The folks on the design, or at least the artistic end of things, really knocked it out of the park, and I've got to commend them for that. Unfortunately, where the game falters tends to be in its gameplay, but what's there most of the time is perfectly serviceable, if not really fun in some places. I absolutely adored the addition of things like the transformations, which tended to get a lot more fleshed out in their usage after the first 2 worlds, and I appreciate that. Rextro's fun little arcade games were nice diversions. All of the brief little mini games that could be played in the casino, minus the kind of repetitive slot machines that you would have to interact with. I think they did fairly well, and I think it would be a real shame if this developer did not return, if not to this IP for a 3rd time, to this style of gameplay and try to give us a more robust, smoother collectathon platformer, because I can see here sort of like a real moat of genius. This has the possibility of being an astounding IP, the likes of which we haven't really seen since the era of the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox, and fairly early on in that console generation as well. So, you know, huge praise is, I believe, merited. They've done a pretty solid job. So, in chat, Maisie says, I'm down. I take it for, like, the Steam garbage streams. I would love that. I would also love to stream some Total War for you guys. I love strategy games, but and this comes from somebody who works in the academy, this comes from a teacher, I am absolutely terrible at thinking through strategy games, or in fact any kind of strategic puzzles or gameplay whatsoever. And I am a terrible self-motivator. Campaigns in those games are so long. So I would love to have like a casual audience to chat along with as we try to figure the game out together. And MC Tomb says, my brother and his wife are somewhere in that list. Oh, nice! And Maisie says, so many Alexes. Yeah, I noticed. Look, this gives you any idea how many people believed in this game, believed in this project, wanted something like Banjo-Kazooie again, long after the AAA gaming industry had moved so far away from these exploration-based, colorful, vivid puzzle platformers. Look at this. We've been sitting here for ages, and we're not even through the A's, alphabetically. That's incredible. You know, just thousands and thousands of backers from all across the world giving of themselves to allow something like this to happen. And I think, regardless... Yeah, MC2M says 73,206 backers. So, in that... As a result, we're going to fast forward just a little bit. Not that much. Maybe... There we go. So that we can actually get out of here before, like, midnight. NC2M says, 175,000 euros was the base. Oh no, sorry. Not euro, pound? Pound, sorry. 175,000 pounds was the, default. I'm a political scientist. I know my currencies. Was the default goal, and they raised 2,090,104 pounds. Good gracious. So no, I think contrary to what a lot of people have said in like the press and such, we can actually chalk this one up as a crowdfunding success story. Is it a phenomenal game that just blew the doors off and has me and everybody else who's experienced it on our knees in adoration? No. Is it like probably one of my top 10 platformers or puzzle platformers of all time? No. Probably not. But it's really solid for what it is. And I think you have to appreciate that. You have to appreciate this also comes as the first project from a totally independent studio that had not made, even its veterans, had not made something of this nature in a very, very long time. So learning to work old strategies and old developmental principles into a brand new framework with new technology, it's commendable. I want more of this. Give it another go. If we could get 3 Ty the Tasmanian Tiger games, we can get 2 3D Yooka-Laylees. Oh, geez, I may have to speed it up just a little bit more. This is incredible. So many Brandons. And I'm torn as to what I should do next. There were 2 kind of projects I was dwelling on. Now, on the one hand, we could dive into Psychonauts, one of my favorite platformers, nay, one of my favorite games of all time. And I could take you through that. It wouldn't take very long. It's not a terribly long game, even if you get almost everything that's available. It's not really a collectathon platformer. It's far more linear and developed in a style that is heavily informed by the adventure games that Tim Schafer and his Double Fine team were so well known for. Or I could dive into games I've never played before and take a deep dive into the Spyro Reignited trilogy that I've had just sitting on a shelf for a couple weeks now. What do we think? What would we like to see? Maisie says, it's amazing that they took the time to include everyone's name, but if you have a name at the end of the alphabet, it can be a pain just looking for yourself. Yeah, no, it would be. Goodness gracious. This is incredible. I'm not fast forwarding through this at the... MC2M says I'm fine for both. Thank you. Maisie says I'm down for either or, and sorry it's a new phone, so I'm making a ton of typos. Don't worry, I totally understand. I have the same issue. Not just every time I get a new phone, but oftentimes if I get a new case for my current one. As I've said, I'm not really a tech guy, so I'll keep my phone, my current model, just as long as I can until they practically force me to exchange it. To give you an idea, I'm the kind of guy who's... I'm not into, like, the retro chic stuff, like vinyl records and the like, but all my music, or most of my music, is still on disc. Even discs that I've burned myself. Very lo-fi, low-tech around here, as much as I can manage. Maisie says, same here regarding the phone. MC2M says it's easier to see my name in Divinity Original Sin 2. So, unpopular opinion. I've played the original game, and I think it's insanely well made. I'm actually not a huge fan. I think the world, the characters, everything they've built, and the ways in which you can interact with them, those are all phenomenal, and I actually love the combat system. But one very specific thing about Divinity Original Sin irritated me to no end. MC2M says the first world map is great. Yes, it is. It is. You want to know what that is? It's... well, okay. At several points in the game, you will be asked to influence or persuade characters using basically a rock, paper, scissors system, wherein informed by your stats and sort of your opponent or conversation partners, you will slowly, as you win hands or games of this kind of Rochambeau system, accrue points along a gauge. So little pips in a line, right? And the first of you to make it to the center, or to a certain amount of points, will sort of win the debate, so to speak, and that'll influence the options available to you. It's a kind of an interesting take on persuasion in like a classical RPG. I don't tend to like skill checks or other opportunities that are gated off by obstacles influenced by chance. That's why I'm a huge fan of the way Pillars of Eternity did it, where if you meet a skill threshold, you can do the thing. If you don't, or nobody in your party does, you can't, etc. There's no random chance. I generally like that. But, oh no, hold on. That's not what I dislike. That's not a personal preference of mine, but I could work with it. No. See, at the start of the game, they give you a companion character. Basically, whichever one of the two default protagonists or protagonist models you didn't choose would be assigned to you as your partner. And they are with you regardless of kind of what happens through most of the game, I want to say. And here's the thing. In totally mundane conversations with quest givers and the like, you can elect to say, if you play role-playing games the way I do, handle a situation peacefully, or elect to reconcile two parties at odds, or show compassion to the monster, or sort of the societal outcast, sort of the outsiders, right? One of my favorite aspects of playing RPGs is getting to interact with not necessarily antagonistic, but ostracized factions or species or something like that. Like Pathfinder Kingmaker has this great section early on where you get to work alongside mites and kobolds, two races that are assigned like a chaotic evil alignment in that particular role-playing milieu. And you get to explore their societies and see that even though they're extremely, like, kind of rudimentary, they are emotional and friendly to those that assist them, and they're perfectly willing to help you, and you get to see this world from another point of view. I think that's really, really cool. Anyway, say you try to take that approach. Say you try to be peaceful and diplomatic and conciliatory and all these things. Every single time you express such an opinion or such a perspective, it'll affect the way your character is recorded in the game. You will get such and such character traits, right? And there's certain levels or degrees of potency with which these traits will be ascribed to your character. You know, somewhat merciful, very merciful, excessively merciful, and so on. And by design, your partner will evolve in the opposite direction. In other words, they will become selfish, they will become harsh, they will become kind of xenophobic, and so on. Meaning, every single time you try to resolve a quest or a conversation with a fairly willing, like, friendly conversation partner, you are constantly interrupted by the partner character you can't get rid of, who is specifically designed to constantly be at odds with you and forced to play the Rochambeau game against them in order to carry on the conversation or resolve the quest in the way you want to. Well, what happens if you lose that conversation check? Shouldn't you, since you're the head of the party, just effectively be able to override them, maybe with a hit to the relationship between you two? No. It locks you out of the path towards resolving that quest you wanted to take, and forces you into the one that, or the conversation option, or what have you, that you explicitly wanted to avoid because your partner somehow overwhelms you, or convinces you, etc. I think it's a remarkably poor implementation of a skill check system. First off, giving the player a companion character who's meant to act as their foil, their antithesis, is a pretty good idea, I think. However, forcing them to always be around and then to constantly present you with seemingly arbitrary skill checks that are in turn informed partially by luck, when you're just trying to do your traditional questing or get to interact with the world around you in various ways, felt like an arbitrary attempt to take control or agency, character and world-defining opportunities away from the player for no real reason. And MC2M says that is in the first Original Sin, not the second. It was very disliked, yes. That's great to know. I might actually try the second one then, and even see if I can't tough through the first, because I will say, the world was great, and the combat system I actually really, really liked. It was tricky, it was challenging, but not excessively so. I think it was mechanically at its core a very smooth, very nice game. Okay, we're just going to, MC2M says we could do co-op in Original Sin. Oh, that's interesting. I might be down for that. So you could see how it was designed. Yeah, at some point in the future, I'd love to do that. I've got quite a backlog of games to play, both for this channel and otherwise, but I'd love to. Thanks for the offer. Oh yeah, that's right, too. If you play co-op with someone, they assume the role of your partner, and I presume that kind of constant conflict is no longer present. Oh, and I mentioned Pathfinder Kingmaker earlier. If you guys want a really hard traditional RPG, or CRPG, I mean really hard, I mean obscenely hard, try Pathfinder Kingmaker. The world, the lore, the characters, they're all incredible, and informed by one of the Pathfinder RPG's most famous adventure path campaigns. The amount of options available to you to define your character and interact with the world are just ridiculous, man. But I will say this. The game design, like the design of the gameplay and traversal through the world, combat encounters and all that, are equally ridiculous. They're insanely hard, and feel like you're playing against a sadistic dungeon master most of the time. Yeah, MC2M says it perfectly. Pathfinder Kingmaker kind of failed for me. It's a very great world, but not a great game. I would agree, which is why, to experience it, I said, you know, screw it, and reduce the difficulty on in just about every way as far as I could, so I could experience the story alone. And if you do that, first off, the game still isn't just a complete cakewalk, believe it or not, because, again, in just about every single combat encounter, the enemy, by default, ridiculously outguns you. Oh my god, MC2M says, I went through half the game on max difficulty. You must have godlike skill, or like a masochistic streak, because the game was criticized even by CRPG fans at launch for being, I'll put it this way, excessively hard. Excessively hard. And I say that as someone who believes that, okay, the perfect difficulty in a CRPG for me is probably Pillars of Eternity 1, where, you know, you have to think most of the time. You have to develop your characters in an intelligent fashion. But most run-of-the-mill combat encounters aren't going to be, you know, flying by the seat of your pants. Bosses and significant story encounters will. I remember the hardest encounter in all of Pillars of Eternity 1 for me was actually the very first, like, quote-unquote boss you find in the entire game. But, like, the challenge comes in peaks and valleys, and it feels like there's a reasonable but, like, demanding learning curve. And at no point throughout a normal difficulty playthrough of Pillars of Eternity did I feel like I ran just smack on into a brick wall that kept me from accessing some facet of the story, or from exercising agency as a character that I wanted to. MC2M says both, I guess, in regards to Pathfinder Kingmaker. I still yet to finish that game, but I'm approaching what I believe is going to be my favorite story arc. It's, I think, the War of the River Kings or something. Anyway, sorry, I've just been rambling because, good gracious, there were so many backers, so many wonderful people who gave themselves to make this game a reality that the credits just dragged on for so long. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid we're going to have to sign off for the night. Now, really quickly, two and a half things. Firstly, we're going to take a day off tomorrow so I can grade some papers. It's that time, it's midterms, I've got to turn some work around pretty quickly, so we're going to dive right on in to, I think this... Is it around 20 papers I've got to grade? Yeah, I can knock that out in an afternoon. So I'm going to handle that tomorrow, make sure all our students get what they need. And we'll be back the day after at 6 p.m. Central Time, as always, with our next stream, which will be either Psychonauts or... I'm actually leaning towards Spyro because I've not played those. I've not experienced them personally yet. And I'd kind of like to wait to play Psychonauts until we have a more defined release window for the second game, which, according to Tim Schafer, is planned for this year. But seeing as how the release dates have been infamously slippery for Double Fine over the years, and COVID-19 has completely uprooted most people's work schedule, and in the case of development studios, their release schedules, we're going to have to play that by ear. So I will be back with that, as I said, in 2 days. And secondly, most importantly, this is the third playthrough I've completed on this channel since really diving into Twitch. I did a few test streams last year to no avail. Then I got distracted with grad school and all of the relevant work, and I'm actually really grateful that I've had the opportunity to focus on this again, get set up in my new home, and interact with, chat with, meet all of you guys. And so whether you're watching live on Twitch or you're catching this as a VOD after the fact on YouTube, I want you to know from the bottom of my heart how deeply I appreciate you and your patronage. Thank you so much over the past few weeks for sharing yourselves and your time with me. I hope you feel it's been well spent, and I certainly know I always look forward to the daily stream, especially as I've been, kind of locked away in self-isolation. It has meant the world just to have people out there listening and chatting and connecting with me, even though we're all kind of in our little bubbles right now. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for your patronage, for your follows on Twitch, for your subscriptions on YouTube. I appreciate each and every one of you. And this stream, this channel, really wouldn't be the same without you. Probably wouldn't be anything if I didn't have some kind of audience, right? So I do hope that you will join us again as we carry on, probably into Spyro the next couple days. But beyond that, I'm not entirely sure what to play. I know the only things that are definitely on this streaming schedule for the rest of the year are Psychonauts 2, whenever it drops, and Cyberpunk 2077, which is, I know, it's not exactly what you'd expect from me, the Hand of Fate and Yooka-Laylee guy, but I have had that game pre-ordered for... Oh, and I'm probably going to play Paper Mario Origami King, of course. But I'm really looking forward to Cyberpunk and can't wait to dive into that. Alright, let's see. Final comments from folks. Awesome and amazing, or Maisie said, ramble on, I'm enjoying it. Thanks for the awesome and amazing stream. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Good luck with all that. We appreciate you. It was very well spent. Thank you for all of the kind words and encouragement. Absolutely adore it. Thank you. And Benjamin Pendragon, who is in grad school with me, says, yeah, basically they could relate. And hello. Sorry, buddy, but you were dropping in right at the very end of this stream. We've been going for, goodness, going on 4 hours. How time flies. Having completed this lovely little mascot platformer, but we're going to be back in 2 days with something different, something new. Thank you so much for dropping in at the end, though. I love seeing and hearing from you. Steele says, do I have a Discord? Not yet. I'm going to go about setting one up. Been driving, sorry. Don't apologize. I'm glad you're outside. I dearly miss outside. I don't have a Discord yet, Steele, but I'm planning on setting something up maybe over the next couple of days that I can direct everyone to, and I would love to chat with you guys there. Stay tuned to this channel. I will hopefully post the information when I set up a Discord in the channel description or bio, or whatever they call that section, before we go live in 2 days. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much. I've been Brady the Overanalyst, your host for Yooka-Laylee. We'll be right back in a couple of days with another mascot platformer. and I do hope to see you then. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and have a wonderful, wonderful couple of days. Bye-bye.